Okay. So at the end, we will create an app. We will create two more models, author and genres, and we add the relationship between these four, right? So the owners will be the user, our user model, right? So let's go with the first one, create a relationship between books and owners. Go to your model, the user, the book model. Where is it? Here. Okay. Book model. And then I'm gonna add another field called you can call it owner. Actually, you can call it anything you want. It doesn't matter. Type will be so here. So I'm gonna use referencing. So I will reference the user ID to the user collection, right? So let's go. Why we using referencing instead of embedding? Why? So simple answer. Use always use referencing because it's simple, and then we can think how to make it scale later. So I'm gonna say object ID mongoose dot schema dot object ID. Okay, so it's a type. It's a special type. It's not a string. It's actually an object ID, and that's only exists in MongoDB or Mongoose. Okay, here's the syntax. You want to reference to which field? User. You want to reference to the user model. This model here, the name here, it has to be uppercase U. So I reference this object ID to the user collection or the user model, right? I'm gonna save. All right, sorry, let's test it. So now if you want to create a new book, let's go to the book browse to test. If you want to create a new book, let's see here, okay? What do we need? I have the user there. So this is my model. This is my model. I have a user field, the owner field. So here I should have owner here, right? At least it has to be something else. It has to be an object ID. And what is this? This. So I will ask a bunch of questions along the way. And by answering these questions, you are understanding the flow. So which ID is this? Ta-da. It's an ID inside the user model, right? So it should be a user ID, the ID of the user document, but which user is that? It has to be the current user ID. And how do we get this current user ID? We have that current user ID. Can anyone answer that? You can type on group chat. We learned yesterday. We just learned this yesterday. Okay, the question is, we add one more field, right? The owner. So when we create a new book, we need to specify that field as well. And the type, the value for that field will be an object ID. Okay, an object ID. And that object ID should be a user ID. Okay. But here I'm asking which ID is that? Like, how do I know the ID? Hello, Mark. How do I know the ID? So that I can put it here. The hint is a current user ID. So the current user ID, the current user is the one who's sending this post request to create a book, right? That means that user, the one who's sending that request, is gonna be the owner of this book. Gonna be the owner. Going to be the owner. And how do we have this value? How do we get this value from the request? Ta-da! We learned it yesterday. Get from JWT, yes. It's here. Where is it? Not this, sorry. This one. Do we have it? I think it's in user, sorry. It's here, right? It's here, right? Request.user ID. And in order to have this, you need login required, right? So you have to be logged in order to create a book. Yes, you have to be logged in order to create a book. So I'm gonna add a middleware here. We don't have to repeat the whole logic because we have a middleware to help us with that. And then put it in the helpers, right? Here, here's a middleware. Login required. Copy the name. Put it here. Okay. So you need to import that. Go up one level, go to helpers, authentication. Then you have the title description from the request, and you also have the user ID from request. So you have request.user ID. So here's, you're gonna put it here, request.user ID. That's it. That's it. I'm gonna save. Okay, I save it. npm run dev. Open Postman. Okay. So I need to log in first. I'm gonna log in. And here's my token. All right, so here I show you how to write a, so right now, every time you log in, you need to copy this code, this token, and put it in the order request, right? For example, if you want to create a new book, and here, you need to add a new key authorization manually, right? You have to do it manually. So here's how you do it, kind of like automatically. So I'm gonna go into this collection, Catalina book, right? Click on the triple dot here. Go to edit. Okay. Go to authorization. Click on bearer token. So we're using bearer. Is it okay to go through? Okay, it's fine. It's okay. That's a question. All right, let's go through the which login, the function login. Okay, function. So it should be inside the route. Oh, it's here. Okay, here we go. You want to log in? So it's logged in here. Let me uncollapse this. Okay, so here's a login function. You capture the email and password from body. Whatever you do here, what I'm doing here is I remove the space in front and at the end of the string, change the string to lowercase. I check if there's any password or email that the user provides. If there's no email or password, I throw error. If there's email and password, I'm gonna check. I'm gonna use method. It's a custom method. This method is gonna return. Actually, it's not a method. It's static. This static or this function receive email and password. What it's doing is like it checking whether that email already exists in the database or not. So here's where I define model. Okay. So here's I define that function. It's very simple. I use the email to find the user. If there's no user, I throw the error not found. If there is user, I'm gonna check the password, the raw password together with the hash password. And if it's match, if it doesn't match, I throw an error password incorrect. If match, I return the user here, right? And then, sorry, there's a spider on my keyboard. Right. And then you generate a token, a JWT token using this method. So this is a method. This is an instance, right? This is a method. So here is how I define the method. So basically, just one line of code. It's gonna create a token, a JWT token, and the payload is gonna be an object. Inside the object, gonna have one key, which is the underscore ID here. It's a string. Okay, and then I respond to the client with the user object and the token. And that's why you see on Postman here, when I log in, you see something like this. You see the token here, right? You only return the user object and the token. The front end will understand that, okay, this guy already logged in. And the front end will use the token to send subsequent requests. Okay, for example, this request, update user. We're not going to use this one. I don't save it. I'm going to create a new book using the token, right? So we need to provide a token bearer here, and then the blah 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 blah. This is going to be a token, but you don't want to do it manually because in the future you may have a 10 or 20 or 30 APIs, and you don't want to do it manually. Whenever you log in, you have to copy and paste the token again. That's a lot of work. So we can write some code, some script here to make it automatically replace the new token for you. So in where were we? In the setting here, click on the triple dot in the collection. The collection here, right? If you don't have the collection, you should create it right now. Create a collection, and then click on the triple dot. Go to delete, edit, and then authorization tab. Click on bearer token, and you're gonna use token. This is a variable. I click update. Okay. So here on this gray book, you don't need this to be honest, but here you can inherit auth from parents. Inherit from parents. And here by default you have a key authorization, and there's bearer token. The reason why you see this red text here because there's no value for the token yet, unreserved variable, right? So you can check it by click on the eye here on the environment on the right side, top right. Just here my mouse, click on the eye, and as you can see here, there's no token variable yet. There's no variable yet. So you have to find a way to create that variable. you can do it here in the login. Request, go to test. So you can write a test here. It's JavaScript. So if pm.status, I don't remember the syntax. You need to read the documentation. So here I already have it here. So I'm gonna copy this, put it in the one I'm working on here. Oh my God, copy again. Sorry, login. Go here, paste it. Okay, so PM is Postman. Postman.respond is this response. Then the code of that response will be 200, right? So when you log in successfully, you receive a response with a starter call of 200. So if it's 200, then we will set environment. It's very similar to this one, local storage, and then dot set item, right? And then the key name, and then the value, right? So in Postman, it's very similar. You target Postman PM dot environment, which it is, and then you set the value. So I'm going to set this one to, you can call it a set token, okay? You can call it a set token. Right now I don't have refresh token, so it's something more advanced. I don't have it right now, so just remove it. Now you call it a set token, and then the value. This is the value. You Postman the respond, and then you string JSON verify it. You parse it using this function. Oh my God, go away. JSON to parse the response from JSON file to a JavaScript file, and then you target that field, which is token. All right, the field here, token here, and then that's it. And then I'm gonna log in again. If it's successfully, the test successful, you will see the variable right here, right? Cool. Ta-da. So here we have the variable access token. So now I'm gonna change this one to, change this one to access token, not token. Set token with capital T. I'm gonna update, right? So now if you go to this request, create boot, you actually see the value. Right. So that's how you write automatic test on Postman, as well as make it do something. For example, here I'm going to make it create assign to a variable called access token. Okay. I need to change the panel here. All right. So now I can create a new book using the access token. Then, so I'm gonna create a new book called Hello World. This is my first book ever. I'm gonna click send. So successfully create a new book. So the owner will be the current user ID. Okay. So question from Juan. I'm trying to create a token with a secret must have a value. Okay. Which means you don't have environment here, maybe. So that secret or private key is this part. Okay. When you clone my project, my Git, when you clone it, you need to create a env file here. And so this is my value. So solution create.env add db local and jwt secret. If you clone my Git, okay, and then you have to restart the server. If you still see that problems, which means you have to console log the variable here. the constant here. Make sure that it has a value. Okay. Okay, so I successfully create the new book. If you go to the database, refresh, click on books, you see the new book created, the created book. And this user is actually, I don't know, I don't remember the user. Let's see who that is. It's gonna be the Qua7. So this ID will be Qua7 here. Okay, this guy. Right? Okay. It's just a symbol. All right, so now, right? Next is that, for example, you want to read a single book. Let's create a route to see that single book. I want to see. I want to create a route to see a specific book. Oh well, just do it. This one is fine. So I want to see all the books that I created on the books. On the books. On the books. Here we go. I'm going to click send, and I see one book, right? But now here's the problem. The field, the owner field here, I only see the string, the ID, which doesn't make any sense to me. Right? I want to see the name, the maybe the email, or maybe avatar, something like that. So how do we do that? We can either use JavaScript here. For example, here we have a, so after before we find the books, we have something called each book, right? You have something called owner, the prompt owner, and then you need to use that ID in the owner here, and then activate some query like here, user.find by ID, and then you put the each book owner inside. This is too much, and it's take a while to do. So Mongoose, actually, the ODM Mongoose, it has some tools to help you with that. You can do just this dot populate field that you want to populate. For example, right now I want to populate the owner. Yeah, there we go. So I populated on the field owner. I'm going to save. I'm going to send the request again. Ta-da! Okay. I want to hide this panel here. It's blocking my view. Okay, so here we go. We have the owner object instead of just the ID. You have name, you have email, you have created as something like that. But there are certain fields that you don't want the user to see, the client to see. Right? So you can hide it. You can hide these two. You can hide the email as well. So here's how you hide it. Minus email, space, created at, space, created at. All right, I'm going to say S again. It cannot have, minus. Here it say that it cannot have a mix of inclusion and exclusion. So you either have all minus or just this. This or this. Okay. Then, okay, so now exclude these two fields. So this book belongs to me. Right. So let's create another book. Create another book. It's my second book ever. Create. fail. Why is that? Why does it fail? So here's the construct why it failed. All right, the title is replicate. Okay, because in our model, the book model, we have unique on the title, so we need to create the book with another title. So it's going to be Hello World 2. I'm going to create a new one. So there we go. So now you can see the list of the books. Yeah, so, all right. Right, let's go over all the steps again. First, we need to define the relationship in the model. Right? We define the relationship between the book collection and the user collection by joining, we join two collections by this field, the owner field, and the value inside the owner field will be the object ID of the user, the object ID of this user model. Right? So we reference, we give name here, we specify the name of the model that we want to target to. So right now we want to target to the user model. Yeah. Right. We target to the user model and we specify this field, the object ID field. So by default, it's gonna look at the object, the ID of that model. You don't have it here because by default, Google will create for us. So then we have the relationship, and here when we create a new book, we need to give it the value, right? And the value inside the owner for the owner has to be there's nothing else. It has to be the current user ID. And to have the current user ID, we need the user to be logged in first, so that we can know who he is, what is his ID. Okay, that's why we use the middleware login required here. We learned it just yesterday. And when we have this middleware, we also have request of user ID. We expect to have this. And then we pass the value to the owner field when we create a new book. Okay, that's it. So, so for and then when you just find the books, just like how we did yesterday, we have the owner field, which is an ID, just an ID. There's nothing inside, just an ID. But we want an object, we want the name, maybe ID as well. We want ID, name, maybe pictures. But right now we don't have pictures, so just name and ID. And then we need to populate. Basically, populate here means for each book, go and find the user that is associated to that book for me. Right? Kind of like go for each book, go and find associate or owner in user. Okay. It means just that. And then you can omit or you can exclude these three fields from the response. Here we go. And then save it and run it again. So now you see the object with the ID and name on it. Okay. So that's for referencing, one-to-one referencing. Actually, one-to-many. So where's the poll? Okay, you done with that? But I don't know why I feel so dizzy. All right. It's pretty straightforward. Does it mean what? Right? So it's magic, right? So here, if you have to do it with JavaScript, right? If you have to do with JavaScript, you have to run a for loop for all the books, and for each book, you want to execute additional query, right? Additional query. For example, file one or file by ID, user.file by ID. Then you pass in the book dot owner to find the user. That's why I say here. That's why I say here you have to run additional query to get the related data. Okay, because we only have the ID. So in order to get the information from that ID, we need to run additional queries. And by using populate here, Mongoose will do that for us. You don't have to run a follow. It's pretty convenient. If the ID does not match, it will skip. It will simply skip. So let's try it. So for example here, book here. So if I change this one to some wrong ID, 6D for example, this was 5C, right? I'm gonna update, and then see, all the user will know. Cannot find any, so it return no. All right. All right. Any other questions? Okay, if you don't have any other question, let's go to another case. Go to another case. Where am I? It's done, right? Tick, tick, tick. Book will have author. Right, so book will have author. So how do we provide that? So that's two way we can honors. It's done. I forgot. I'm gonna paste the code here. Where's the model? The book model. Model. Okay. And honor. So I'm gonna call this book, right? Okay. So how about authors? So I'm gonna send you this link on Discord. So whatever I type here, you should see it on your computer. It's live, or you can just refresh the page to see the latest comment. Right. So here for authors, we can create a list of author first beforehand, right? Or we create author on the go, on the fly, I would say. What does it mean? So, so whenever the user create a new book, it's gonna be like this. Create a new book. I'm gonna say, yeah, okay. Let's go with embedding approach for this case, and we're gonna use referencing approach for genre. It's very similar to author, but let's do it embedding. Let's go with embedding. Why is that? Because we rarely change the author on the book, right? On the book, as you can see on the book cover, you rarely change the detail, the information of the author. So using embedding is, I think, it's more appropriate in this case. And using embedding, you can actually add more author as well. You can add 2 or 3 authors. So basically, we could send something like this. Authors, uh, like so, and we can have a name, for example, and I don't know where you put it. What else do you have for author? Nothing. So let's go with the simple case. But author will have a name. Okay. Right. You can have all the keys like published year, published day, or something, or ISBN. For now, just go with author name, the name. And to add this field to the document, we need to define this in the model. Okay. Go to our model, the book model here. I'm going to add one more field called author. See, it's an object. It's an object, right? Or you can name it more advanced. If you want to strictly define the structure of that object, you can use schema. It's going to be mongoose subdoc or subschema subdoc here. Okay, so for children or for child, you can use a child schema inside, and this child schema is very similar to the parent. So here we go. Just this. So let's see the nested schema. You can put it the nested schema like this. Very simple. So I'm gonna do the same thing. Right? Author will be another schema inside, and inside that has to be a string. That's it. Ta-da! Okay, let's try it. So when you create that, you need to, when you create a book here, pausing a new book, right? Pausing a new book, pausing a new book, where is it? Here. We also add one more field, author, right? And the author will be whatever we got from the client. So we need to define author as well here, up here on line 24. Oops. And then we pass in author there. Pretty much it. I'm going to save. All right, I'm going to test again. Postman. So here I'm going to change this one to 3 instead of 3, 2. And this is going to be my third book. I put, okay, the user is me, but the author is hard. I'm going to say. Okay, successfully create a new document. Now we can check our database. Refresh. And you see it here. Okay. Right. So by default, when you create a subdoc, a subschema, it also create the ID for you, right? Okay. So now you also have the name. You don't have to populate it because it's an embedding technique approach, right? You're embedding the whole object to that. You don't have to populate. So that's embedding. Where is it? All right. Okay, so I'm going to copy the word here, put it in embedding. So this referencing, sorry. Right. So That is new key author, and this is our query creating book. Paste the query there. I'm going to paste the whole code. Actually, I'm going to paste the whole code. Okay, this is not owner. This is going to be sorry. It's going to be so it's getting the books and populate owner. Okay, save. And you can refresh the page to see the new content. Right. Relaunch. Yeah. If you click no, you can ask question right away. Okay, cool. Okay. Update. Oh, I forgot to make it require because if you don't have that field, it doesn't make any sense to have the author object. Okay. So that's how you define a nested document. And you don't have to populate at all because it's already inside the main document that you have here. Bam, bam, bam. So this app is not perfect, guys. It's just to show you how to define relationship and how to uh, insert information, insert data with the relationship, as well as how to query, run query to get the data, the related data. Okay. If you're done, you can click yes. Any questions? You're done. If you're done, hit the yes button. The hell? What? This tool is so broken. I hate this. Right, this one. Okay. I'm gonna check again. Hmm. Done. So, hey, we need to. You need to hit yes or no to to go to the next part. Yeah. God damn it, go away. So here's the code. We just define a new field. Okay. And the content will be very similar to what we have done here. So it's a sub schema or it's a sub document. That's the name. So for example, if you don't provide the author, let's see what happened. For there's no name, there's only age, 18. See what happened when I say. So if we throw the error, and actually the error will be author name is required, right? So when we including books, if fail, right? There's no enough response. Any question, guy? Let's see who's here. Okay, so let's move on to genres. Where am I? Where's it? Tick tick. So for genres, genres. So for genre, I want to the user should be able to input a name. User will input genre name. So let's use referencing. So because genre, you can modify the genre, you can add more genre, you can remove genre, you can change the genre name more frequently than the authors. Right? So for example, so because of that, we're going to use referencing. And for user experience, the user should be able to input the genre name instead of choosing from a list. So for example, right now we don't have any genres. So for example, when creating a new book or when submitting a new book, for example, right now, genres collection is empty, right? Right now in our collection, genre collection is empty. And when a user submit a new book and he select, for example, let's say he select genres, so it's an array, right? It's plural is an array, and he wants to be romance as well as science. What's wrong with this? Yeah, fine. And then when he submit this book, we should have create the a document romance, document science, right, for future reference. And then we add the ID here. We add, so this one is going to return genres and a couple of ID inside array instead of string like this. Okay, that's the purpose. Okay, so we expect, so this is a request. So here's an example, request sample. And the response sample will be something like this. And you have one more key, genres, which is an array of ID, some ID, some other ID. This when we not we haven't populated this field yet. So when we populate this field, it's going to be an object, and you have underscore ID something, and then we have the name. It will be science, for example. Okay, so that's the purpose. So the user should not be required to like select the ID. When he submit a new book, he can choose whatever genre he wants. But on the backend side, we need to check whether that genre already exists in our database or not. If it doesn't exist, we can create a new genre. If it already exists, we just use the existing one. Right? Cool. That's nice, huh? So that's the idea. That's the requirement. Sample response, and sample request. Sample response. So we have sample request, sample response. So let's go. So we first need to define this field in our model. Go to the model, the book model, comma, go down. So here we go. We need to define the field. I'm going to say genres, which is an array of object of mongoose schema object ID. Yeah, right. Not really. We have another and comma, and we need to reference this to somewhere else, somewhere general, for example. Okay. So I'm gonna create a new model called genres, and just like for the owner, I will have a object ID, and I will reference that to the genre model. Okay. So here I will create a new model called genre. Actually, I have the empty file here. Okay. So here's the syntax very similar: const mongoose, and then const schema. There we go. And for this, we just need the genre name, or you can call it genre, and this will be type string, reply or not. Yes. Genre name is required. I also want to trim it to unique. Yes, it has to be unique. I don't want to have a bunch of different documents with the same genre name. Right? So it has to be unique. It has to be trimmed and required. Yes, type string. That's it. And then export it. We can module, but export equal mongoose.model, the name of the model, which is genre, comma scheme, and I cannot type. All right, so there we go. This model is very simple because right now its only purpose is to contain the name of the genre. That's it. I'm going to save this one, and here when we create a book, here we need to provide a name as well. Genre. Genres equal to genres. Here we need to define genres from the body. Okay. So now I'm gonna check this two as well. If there's no author, I'm gonna complain, or if there's no genres, I'm gonna complain as well. Right? It will not work. It will not work yet. It will not work yet. Maybe it worked, but not will not work yet. So I will send it. I will test. I will send it. It's throw an error. Say cast to object ID fail. Right, as you can see here, it cannot cast to the object ID. Why is that? It tried, Mongoose is trying to change this one to an object ID before it saved to the database, but it cannot because it's not the object, the ID format that Mongoose expected. So we need to do something else in between. So we need to convert this string into a document, a book, a general document. So here we go. Oh my God. So here we have to do one more step. Convert genres. Right now it's an array of string, right? To genres, which is an array of object ID. Right. So in order to have this, in order to have that, we need to create new genres document using the genre genre or find from find existing genre. Right, this one is complicated than the other two. Solution is convert a string, genre of string to object ID. And to do this, we need to we either create a new genre document or we find the existing one in our database. So right now, our database doesn't have any genres. I will show you. So when you refresh, you don't actually see that collection at all, which means there's no data in there. Okay. So I can simply actually I cannot I can just create a model and then I can create a new how do you say a new genres with the name whatever I want. But let's not do that directly in the database. It's bad. So I will create a function. I'm going to call it headers. I'm going to create genres .js. Okay. So this function, what it does is I'm going to create const create genres. So and since function, what I say is I insert genres to database using string. Right? General name. So I expect this one to be a string. This one is complicated. How do I say? This function and return the object, right? The Mongo object, the general object. Set up a string. I want it to be an object. So here we go. So how do you insert how to insert a a new document into a collection? So here's a very simple question: how to insert a document into collections? Papa, I have a string here. Okay, I have a string here, and I want to insert a collection that looks like this. Genre, which will equal to the string from the element. I want to insert this document into the genre collection. So this is a quiz from yesterday or Tuesday, maybe Wednesday, when we learned some rules. Challenge. I need to make sure people are not sleeping. So this is a separate question. How do we insert a document into the collection? Are you sleeping? Are you ready? Hello, people. Are you here? So this is a very simple question. How to insert a document into the collection? Very simple question. So first thing first, I need to import genre first. Go to require. So I have the model, I have the document. So how do I insert it? You can either insert many, or you can either insert one by one. So let's do insert one by one. So const equal to, we need to check it first. Check. Let equal await genre, which is the model. Then I'm gonna find one. I want to find this field, the genre field here. This field will be the string. Is it equal to the string? Before that, I need to trim the string. String lowercase. Okay. And I put the trim here. The trim here. Okay. Now I want to find a genre there. So if not genre, I will create a new genre. Genre equal to await create. Okay. So the content will be the same. Okay. And finally, I want to return genres. That's pretty much it. Basically here, I use a string. For example, here, it will be Romans, right? Romans, I find Romans in my collection, my general collection, and I cannot find anything. So it's going to be no. Genre will be no for the first time. So it's no, and then create it, right? Push it to the collection, then return it. So here, by the end, I expect to receive a document, not no or anything. This has to be a document, right? So export that function. And you can use it here. Now you can use it here, but before that you need to import them. Create it. Genre equal to require. Go up one level, go to helpers, go to create genres. Okay. Okay. We go. Okay, and then when we create a new book, let's just comment out these. Let's comment out these because I don't want to meddle with my database yet. So I'm gonna comment out the comment out this response, and I will return with a static response, which is book string. So here I comment out this line as well. So basically, I want to create new book right there. Create genre. Const genres equal to. So the genre here will be an array, right? Right now genre is an array, and I want to look through that array one by one. For each genre, I want to create a new one. So it's not create genre, create file or create one or create. Make sure the name is makes sense. So file one or create. I'm gonna put file one or create. File one or create. Okay. Sorry, change the name. Okay. File one or create. So here I want to file one or create a genre, and I put the genre. So let's say let's hard code it first. Genres. Let's go with the first element. We will do a loop later. So for now, I'm going to console genres. You need to use a wait here because it's an asynchronous function, right? So basically, right now I just construct. You don't have to construct this return. Right. So let's try it. I'm gonna try this one. I'm gonna hit send. So here I successfully create a Roman genre. Right. So here's the ID. So this is the ID. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to click this button again. I'm going to send the request again, the same request. It's going to return the same object ID. There you go. See, same. Click again a couple of times. Still the same ID, which means I only have one object, one document here, Romans here in my collection genres. Right. Cool. So now you can, what you do is you can put in genres. So we need to make this one into an array instead of just one. So how do we do that? It's JavaScript. It's all about JavaScript. It has nothing to do with Mongoose or MongoDB. You can run a for loop for using const genre object equal genres dot map, right? And for each string, for each genre string, you want to do this. Okay. There you go. Sorry, this has to be string. Okay. Okay. Then you console log that. See, you cannot use await here. What's wrong with that? Yes, I think here. Okay. So it will not will not work yet, but let's see. Actually, it worked, but you don't see the response right away. I'm gonna put it here. You don't see the response right away. You're gonna see promise. I think. Yeah, you see nothing. But actually, it creates the data for you, but you don't see anything here because it's something to do with condition race. What it means here is it doesn't return the data right away, but it's still executing the code. So this is going to be a promise, right? An array of promise, an array of promise. What you can do here is you can count results, or you can call full or by anything, equal to promise. So this is something more, a little bit more advanced, promise all. So what it does here is that it will wait until you get all the results from this array. So it will wait until all the promises here will be resolved. That's depending here, meaning it's executing. So you can put the array here, general object. Okay, and then you can construct full, and then you can return full. And then I'm going to send the request again. Okay, so now you receive the data, and it's actually wait a little bit to execute the code and return the results. So that's how you use how you deal with the raw race condition asynchronous. Right. So I know this one is new to you, and we have two new things at the same time. So I'm gonna put the code here, and you trying to read the code, try to understand it a little bit, or you can ask question in like I will give you 5 minutes, right? Try to ask think about a question and ask me after short break here, right? So I'm going to put the function here and the so I'm going to copy this for you on this call. Okay, get this code, run it, and ask questions. Right. See you guys in 5 minutes. I need to stop this video as well because it's getting quite long. Actually, I think it's more than 5 minutes because Young will come and ask a couple of questions to you guys, and it's about like 15 minutes. So good luck.